Yes, everybody. Russ on the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe. I've changed my top. If you're new around here, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a subscribe. We've had a transfer rumour omnibus, it seemed today. You know, lots and lots of rumours. And to do the show this morning about CJ and Jonathan David. I did the return of the Rusty Rumour Roundup, the original rumour rating. So I'm just showing out my camera at the same time as we're talking. And now we've got the Hammers headlines in association with the KUMB.com boys. We've got 3 stories to talk about. One transfer rumour, one takeover rumour, and one... Sorry, I've got to sort this out, do my brain in. And one... returning player from loan. We actually have a player who is potentially returning from loan rather than deciding they don't want to play for us anymore. Right, let's talk US investment, shall we? It's the hot topic when it comes to West Ham. And in terms of what we know so far, in terms of the timeline, so we know that I think myself and Adam from Dad's Our Pod, we spoke about, I think it was in maybe January, maybe even December time, speaking about 2026 and talking about how that could be a pinnacle year for West Ham in terms of our moving forward. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. But over the last few days, few weeks, there's been some speculation about the US takeover. I think it was ex-WHU employee mentioned last week that there was a couple of US investors coming in or had instructed their lawyers to start proceedings with West Ham or do due diligence or whatever in terms of purchasing the Davy Gold shares. Now, originally these were for sale for 12.5%, and cards have been pouncing around for the best part of 18 months now with no takers. Now they're out of probate. They were out of probate a month ago, 6 weeks ago. There has been a development, as we know, as the Gold estate, the Gold family, Vanessa and Daniel Cunningham, are open to going to sell their entire shares of around 25% of the club. Now, this is a bit of a step change. We are led to believe this is partly because they need to finance their other stuff, basically, particularly Ann Summers has reportedly £13 million in losses, and they've had a £5 million bailout. I think Gonza did a whole show about it last week, and that's forced them to look into selling the entire West Ham stake, which has perked more interest, which makes perfect sense. If buying 12.5% of a club where you have got someone who's in charge in terms of Sullivan as a major shareholder, then you've got Daniel Krasinski, you're going in as a very much a third, not even third, you'd be fourth, because the Gold estate would own 13% and you'd own 12%. So it's not a very attractive proposition. So it's unsurprising there wasn't any takers really at that money. Now, what is interesting is the role of an existing West Ham shareholder in terms of Chip Smith. Now, that's where it gets interesting. Chip Smith purchased 8% of the club a few years ago. Again, seen as a bit of a, not random, but a bit of a left field sort of purchase, with the intention for me of always keeping his toe in there. And actually, I believe he actually gave an interest-free loan as well, which they would pay back once we sold the club, if I remember correctly. There was no timings on that. Now, the reports are coming out, I think Clarence Hugh mentioned it, that Trip Smith has emerged as someone who is actively looking at US-based investment groups. He is former Blackstone managing director. He was the founder of CSO Capital Partners. He is well connected. And indeed, that was something me and Adam, I think, mentioned a while ago, how he was looking at where Baroness Brady was looking at sort of more Middle Eastern investment. He was looking at potential investment from the US and Canada. There's going to be increased interest in football. We've got the World Cup there in 2026. So again, there's no surprise that there is growing interest in the US in terms of investing in the West in the Premier League. I think there's 14 clubs currently have US investment of the 20. Maybe that increases with Leeds coming up with the 49ers and what's the name from Burnley as well. So that's where it is at the moment. And then sources have confirmed that although they were looking for alongside, there were some London investment opportunities being explored. It was felt that the US was very much the pool to fish in for that big whale. Now, again, looking back, I'm not surprised. Looking back at that investment from Trip Swift, 8% didn't seem a lot, but for me, he's quietly been in the background, talking to people and putting stuff together. Now, what's interesting is that it was almost like with the deal for the shares for gold. I mean, again, openly available to Krasinski and Sullivan. Indeed, the three of them had the mutually agreed price when Krasinski first came in, of buying each other's shares out, and that was written into the contract, I believe, at the time. Now, what's interesting is with the investment now doubling, in essence, particularly alongside Trip Smith's 8%, that would go to 33% now, which would take them above Daniel Krasinski's 27, which may force Krasinski's hand or may suggest that Krasinski even reduces his percentage in terms of selling to the US and then becoming the major shareholder in terms of the investment group. Again, it's all percentages and sort of background politics, so to speak. But I think the role of Trip Swift is really interesting. And then Sean on West Ham Football this morning, I think it was, he spoke about some of the guys that Trip's been talking to, and one of them is Guggenheim. Is it Guggenheim? No, it's Guggenheim. Is that Guggenheim? Is that the art gallery? Guggenheim Partners. They're a global investment firm with over $260 billion or £1 billion rather in assets. The firm's well known to Trip. Indeed, it was reported that he met with them in Doha in January 2020 to talk about potential investment in West Ham. And it's rumoured that he's looking again to form a potential partnership of which Guggenheim could be part of that group. And as I said, with all the percentages, I mean, David Sullivan has 39%, I think it is. So if the 25 plus 33, that's very, very close. And they could easily, I think, even mop up the minor shareholders. There's also the guys like the Brown family have a percentage and various others. I think they could easily take that percentage up. There is a slight fly in the ointment with this, as always. As the Guggenheim partner's CEO is a guy called Mark Walter. He has a stake in Chelsea as part of another consortium group in terms of the Blue Co group, and he's personally believed to own around 13% of Chelsea, with Todd Bowley, who obviously again is a former president of Guggenheim Partners. So again, there's this sort of weird symbiotic thing. So they'd probably have to, I would assume, Walter would have to sell his stake in Chelsea to take over to be part of the US consortium, because in terms of owning percentages in two Premier League clubs, it's not necessarily an issue with someone Daniel Krasinski at the moment, because obviously we're not in Europe, but Sparta Prague are. And there's obviously issues with Nice and Man United and Ionos and stuff like that as well. So it's going to be a lot of boardroom talk. I think it's going to be a lot of percentage talk. So I think potentially, I mean, even if Daniel Krasinski, I mean, there has been suggestions that he may well want to cash in on West Ham and sell his 27% if someone doubles the money he paid for, I'd imagine. So, that could end up being a 60% controlling stake of West Ham, and that would outvote any remaining shareholders and would very much, well, David Sullivan would be the second highest shareholder there. There's lots of moving parts, but it does seem a lot's happening in the background. Now, I watched, I think Mark and Gonz did a good show yesterday, and they were talking about, is this all this news coming out because season tickets? And I agree with them. They're saying, oh, you don't buy a season ticket on in the premise of someone potentially owning 25% of the club and things like that. I think that's generally a desire. I think we've spoken about on this channel about 2026 season being a sort of a standout season. Indeed, everything's sort of aligning to that. we've got new shirt sponsors, new shirt manufacturers in the 26-27 season. New Balance, a US-based club, based manufacturer. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. On top of that, we'll have a new shirt sponsor. Obviously, yesterday we announced there was the announcement of Ball Sport being the next our shirt sponsor for next year until the voluntary ban on front of shirt advertising for gambling companies comes into effect. So again, that could lead to that. In a similar way, that could lead to a potential deal with the London Stadium rights as well. And and we have been talking with the likes of we've had conversations with the likes of Amazon and people like big US companies. I think there's too much of a coincidence. It all not add up, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I really believe. I think this, not necessarily next year, but I think the following year with New Balance, we'll have a new shirt sponsor, and you could be seeing the effects of a US investment, significant US investment, leading up to that. With the World Cup coming up as well in 2026, there's going to be increased eyes on football or soccer over there. And so more and more people will want to get into that world. So there'll be more money in the game. There'll be more interest in the game, and obviously Premier League being the most profitable league in the world, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me how it's all going US, But let's talk about players. Obviously, that's 10 minutes we warbling on about sort of the investment and the latest we know. We obviously linked with a load of players. I think honestly we're over 60 players already in the last couple of weeks. I'm not joking, and we haven't even opened the window. I've kept the sheet. I think about 62 already. It's going to get worse, my friends. But another one to add to the list: Alexander Sorloth, player we linked with when it was Villarreal. 29-year-old Danish striker. According to reports, West Ham are interested in signing him in the summer. He failed at Crystal Palace. He went out on loan a few times as well. But then when moving to La Liga, he really found his feet. And last season, 26 goals, 6 assists for Villarreal. He was second highest goal scorer last year to Artem Dombrick from Atletico Madrid, who then sold him to the Serie A sides. And then Atletico Madrid then bought the second one. So it's like we get rid of the first one's gone, so we'll buy the second striker to come in and sort of go for us. And he scored 26 goals and 2 assists in all competitions this year as well. So again, a decent return. He netted 4 goals against Real Sociedad in La Liga last weekend as well. And it seems West Ham are interested in signing him, and he's a serious option for us. Not only us, but also Newcastle, Aston Villa, and Wolves are also plotting a move for him. Still has 3 years left in his contract, but he is 29. So, will Atletico have a decent bid come in from flip him? Quite possibly. They've done it before. Did it with Artem. He's 6'5". He's a giant. Obviously good in the air naturally. Strong, efficient, clinical. Struggled, as I said, when he was at Crystal Palace, but he's very much now more mature and experienced striker. Now, people are going to say, "Oh, he's really old." We know that there's question marks over the fitness of Nicholas Füllkrug. Indeed, when Nicholas is fit, he will play because of the effect he has on the side. And I think there are suggestions that because of his injury record since he's joining us, there may be, if an offer comes in for him from a Borussia Dortmund or someone like in the Bundesliga, that we will move him on. And I could see someone like Sorloth replacing Füllkrug with that position. He's 6'5". He's a big lad. He's set up for Potter's system in terms of interchanging Nicholas Füllkrug, take him out, put Sorloth in. I think everyone else we've been linked to has probably been under the age of about 23. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get a couple of elder statesmen being linked as well. Don't forget under Potter's side, we had the likes of Glenn Murray. Glenn Murray was always someone we feared when Brighton would turn up, and he was 36, 37. He wasn't the quickest, but he was shrewd and could bring in players and could link up play well. He brought in Danny Welbeck as well. Under his reign, Danny Welbeck came in on the free transfer. Was it 3? I think I might have been paid for him. So not everyone we're going to bring in is going to be 23. under 23. There's going to be a couple, I think, just because we're losing a lot of experience. The likes of, Cresswell, Fabianski, Soufal, Danny Ings to some extent at the moment. Obviously, those four are guaranteed to be leaving the club. That must be 600, 700, probably about 600 appearances between the four of them at West Ham. So bringing someone like Sorloth, who's scored, who's clinical, I think would be a shrewd buy, dependent, of course, on how much. Basically, one person who is coming back off loan, not Nafi Ged, Luizao, apparently, according to reports, he's set to return to West Ham this summer following a very unsuccessful loan spell at Pogon. He has made just one league appearance for the full side, and that was last week, I think it was. And they're currently fourth in the league. He joined to try and secure some first team football, but that hasn't worked. He's under contract at West Ham until next June, and he's expected to also be sold if a club comes in from several coming from last. We're interested in the likes of Sao Paulo, who he previously had, Corinthians, Vasco da Gama. He's only 23, and as I said, I think he could be a useful make weight, maybe for a bid for Luis Alberto, Yuri Alberto, for example, for Corinthians. Corinthians are interested in Luizao, player plus cash, maybe. However, his wages may pose a problem, as West Ham cover most of them during the loan spell at Pogon. So, we'll have to wait and see. And actually, thinking back to Sorloth, I mean, there was reports today that Atletico Madrid are looking at Kudus. You could end up being a Sorloth plus money for Kudus potentially. Why not? I think nowadays, particularly under PSR, particularly under stuff like that, you have to be very creative in terms of how you finance a deal, how you package a deal together. So, yeah, why not? And that's it, my friends. Slightly longer Hammers headlines than usual, but hopefully you enjoyed that. As a take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble. If you like what we do, don't forget to like, comment, share. Don't forget to check out neesonmybrand.com. Don't forget to check out Match Bingo. Don't forget to check out the Jared Bowenstein shirt competition that runs out Sunday night. And take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, and I'll see you soon. Much love, my peeps. Bye.